This is a creation of the National Children's Book and Literacy Alliance, and also 108 rather talented authors and illustrators have contributed work to this. The book came about for maybe three general reasons. First of all, I was lucky enough to have lunch with historian David McCullough and his wife Rosalie at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Boston. And it was a lunch that was supposed to be an hour. It ended up being 4 hours because not only do I talk a lot, but so does David McCullough, and so does his wife Rosalie. And we found out we were kindred spirits. We both unbelievably, David McCullough was just like me. He got into falling in love with history through loving historical fiction, and most especially Robert Lawson's incredible books about Benjamin Franklin and his mouse, Ben and Me, and some of the other Robert Lawson books. And a lot of people don't know this, but David McCullough is an artist. He actually took art classes at Yale when he was a student there, and he's a very good artist. And so we were talking about how visuals, the illustrations in the book, were what made us pick a book off a shelf and then read it, and that the visuals and the literature, pulled us into history and this love of history. And while we were talking, he also talked about how in the founding fathers and mothers, literacy was hugely important. First of all, because people wanted to read the Bible. And in fact, in New England, there was almost 100% literacy during the colonial era and the early days of the United States, which is rather astounding, but true. And he started talking about the huge link between literacy, historical literacy, and civic engagement. And that, number one, you can read, you have access to information sources, you find out about your heritage, whether you arrived here yesterday or your family was already here thousands of years ago, that history is our heritage, and that once you understand the heritage and once you understand the idea behind America, then you are much more likely to vote. As a child even, to becoming an adult, you are much more likely to vote, you are much more likely to volunteer, you are much more likely to get involved in your community. And actually, the National Endowment for the Arts recently did a reading survey and actually has the statistical information that backs that now.